I'm Brian Clark, and I am the one.
Welcome to I Am the One, Entrepreneur Edition, a show that explores the journey of business owners who decided to be the one to make life better for the people that they serve. I'm your host, Sonia Thompson, and today's guest is Brian Clark. Brian is the CEO of Copyblogger Media. He started Copyblogger back in 2006 to teach internet marketing to small business owners. Over the years, the company has expanded into training, software, and other media. With their top-notch content, products, and conferences, the Copyblogger Media team has acquired a massive audience of raving fans that buys more than 8 figures of their stuff. We can learn a lot from Brian's experiences in methodically building a multi-million-dollar company from the ground up. So I'm super excited to share his story with you today. But before we dive into the interview, I want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by Try Business School. Get the information you need to build the business of your dreams, step by step. Visit trybizschool.com, that's trybizschool.com, and get started with your free e-course, the 4 people you need to build a successful business. Now, let's get to it. Here's Brian. Hey, Brian, thanks so much for joining us today. I'm glad to have you.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and jump right in. I wanted to just chat with you briefly about your experiences as an entrepreneur. Now, of course, you're the head of Copyblogger Media. But I've heard you mention several times that you are unemployable. Can you talk a little bit about what made you unemployable and give us a little bit about the experiences you had with your first businesses as you started?
Well, I guess 16 years later, it's because I haven't had a job or a boss in 16 years. So that is a big part of why I use that word. But even back then, I started as an attorney. I certainly didn't like the practice of law much, and I think that's valid. But I think I also just didn't like answering to anyone else. I wanted to do my own thing. It didn't have to be huge. It just had to be within my own control. When I first started, I was really focused on writing as a way to make a living, and it turned out that I was more of an entrepreneur than I thought. I was really interested in starting businesses, but as you know, writing kind of stayed with that the entire time. So it's really a win-win for me, I guess.
And what was that first business that you started? Was it something writing related as well?
Yeah, so my very first business was the only one that failed. And I started out publishing online. It was pure internet based. It was pure pop culture, entertainment related, fun stuff for me. And I did build audiences, and I did get a lot of press coverage because back then the internet, everyone wanted to talk about it. But I made no money. And it wasn't until I paired what we now call content marketing, right? We have something to sell other than advertising, because that was the original plan. And the only thing I had to sell were legal services, because I was still a licensed attorney. So rather than starve, I figured I would start a new email newsletter about legal issues related to the internet. Not a lot of attorneys knew anything about that, much less talked about it. And it just completely took off. And that was my first successful business. After that, I realized how to succeed, but I didn't want to practice law, so I started a real estate brokerage and then another one, really just focusing on, okay, what are offline things people want that I can grow into a business using online marketing.
Okay. And then you were able to turn all that you learned from all those experiences into what's now Copyblogger.
Right. So in 2005, I kind of had a life-altering, life-threatening experience. I had a snowboarding accident that required me to have brain surgery, the short story. And after that, I was just not going to do anything business-wise that I really didn't want to do. And I knew I had the knowledge and the abilities to operate online. That's what I was good at. I was good at content. I was good at marketing. I was good at strategy. I wasn't that great at running the business that resulted from it. So With Copyblogger, I grew an audience. I focused on what I'm good at, and then I partnered with other people to help me do the other things I needed to do.
Okay. So you mentioned the part about the accident you had in the brain surgery and a piece that you wrote on Copyblogger about that experience. One of the things that stood out to me was this line in particular. I'll read it. Every delusional and self-defeating system of thought I had carried around with me for years was revealed for what it was, my own mind creating false limitations. Now, after that, of course, you started Copyblogger. Now, did you approach Copyblogger very differently from your previous businesses based upon that realization?
Absolutely. Instead of going with a safe, in demand service such as real estate brokerage, I just went out and started to build an audience and had faith that if I paid attention, that they would tell me what they wanted to buy. And that's literally the story of Copyblogger. I waited over a year and a half before we had any kind of product to sell. And then we built or created what the audience wanted. And then that's what got us into software and the whole WordPress space. And it's just really continued to grow from there.
I'm so glad that you did. I'm a happy, proud customer of Copyblogger for years. And so the things that you guys have produced have done wonders for me. What made you decide that you were going to be the one? You've had the experience, you enjoyed content marketing, but what made you decide that you were going to be the one to fill the need that was existing in the marketplace?
Well, when I originally started Copyblogger, as far as I know, the phrase content marketing didn't exist. I didn't really start becoming the terminology until 2008. And I think all of us reluctantly, adopted it because it's not the greatest term, but no one's thought of a better one, right? So, but what I did know in 2005 going into 2006 was that this entire pro blogging or commercial blogging movement was starting to gain steam, and yet people were struggling with content creation, number one, and then they were struggling with how do you turn that into a business. And those were two things I had figured out, even though I did it on accident and just trial and error, in 1999. But there were two principles there that I had taught myself copywriting once I kind of figured out that content is a way to attract people to sell stuff, not advertising, right? And the other thing, of course, I figured out was that you sell stuff, not advertising. So applying copywriting techniques to content, like better headlines, the way you structure your post to be read, these principles of engagement that are part of copywriting, I was the first one to kind of teach that as applied to blogging, hence the name Copyblogger. And then the other thing, of course, was, look, business blogging, you're selling products and services. You really are going to have a hard time trying to build a business off advertising. And I think 9 years later, everyone realizes, wow, online advertising is hard. Even the ones that get huge amounts of traffic struggle with it. So it was the right thing at the right time. So yeah, I was very fortunate to have floundered around and figured this stuff out earlier.
That's part of the process, huh? Now,
Yep.
recently, you've started a new venture that's completely unrelated from content marketing and software with Further.net. With all the things that you have going on as CEO of Copyblogger Media, what made you decide to turn your attention to something that's totally different and in a new field? And go ahead and tell us a little bit about Further.net as well.
Yeah. So to answer your initial question, I guess insanity might be the reason. No. So all this time, I've never had a personal blog, and I've always kept it really focused about Copyblogger, the brand, helping the audience, and then creating things that help our customers. Intensely focused on that. And, I'm still obviously leading the company. We're getting more ambitious, not less. But as far as writing about content marketing, I kind of lost steam after I said everything three different ways. You can only do it so much. Now, of course, on my podcast, I'm still exploring new issues, but I'm also doing it in a way that's kind of personally driven. Like, where's the next level? What's a new way to do something? And the only way that I can really have credibility is to try new things. So, on one hand, further.net is just my version of a personal project. It's not designed at this point to make any money, it doesn't sell anything. I just want to write, and these are the things I'm interested in. The reason why I took a curation approach, or really linking to other pieces of content and other ideas and stuff like that, is I'm not trying to be the authority figure here. I'm just learning and sharing. It's kind of like we're going on the journey together. And I really love that because there's no pressure and it's fun and I enjoy doing it. At the same time, a lot of people are interested in content curation. So it does relate to the day job and to the Rainmaker platform, which it's built on, all that good stuff. But other than that, I just love doing it. It's a blast.
That's awesome. Now, I've heard you mention before, maybe you might be experiencing some of this with your new project, but whenever you feel fear, that means that the thing that's making you fearful is something that you can't not do. You actually have to move forward with it. How do you actually get over that paralysis, I guess, that fear kind of makes a lot of people to do nothing? How do you get over it to move forward, to go forward with the project?
Yeah, so first of all, with further, there's no fear because, again, it's fun. It doesn't matter if it does well or not. And actually, my wife always says the day you start something you don't care about for money, it'll be the huge thing. Who knows? But regardless, going back, I think during my early days as an entrepreneur and even the 4 years that I practiced law and I was just kind of frozen and didn't know what to do, you're kind of trapped by your own fear, mainly fear of failure. What are other people going to think? All of this kind of stuff. Now, fear is a very useful, emotion. If there's a lion around the corner and you're afraid, that's a good sign to run, right? Or if someone is trying to hurt you, or someone's trying to hurt your family. But most of the things we fear are not like that. They're not really true things that can harm us physically or endanger our lives or something like that. And yet we have the same exact response, that paralyzing fear and anxiety about it. So I guess part of my development over time is when I feel that, and it's not a lion or someone trying to beat me up or something like that, then I need to conquer that because the consequences of being afraid or the worst thing that can happen it's generally not that bad. And the things I try and mess up, or I always learn from them. I always come out stronger by doing it. And then other things are just insecurity. When I started speaking originally back in, I think, 2007, I had no intention of doing that when I started that blog. I wanted to start a blog so I don't have to leave the house. But even though I had been an attorney, I had a fear of public speaking. So I said yes, and I just went up there and did it. And it's just a personal creed. I don't think I'm any braver necessarily than anyone else. Courage is really just maybe being afraid and doing it anyway. And that's how I grow as a person, or at least try to.
Got it. Is there anything that you do to get you more comfortable with the process of overcoming or conquering your fear aside from just getting up and doing it?
Yeah, insane amounts of research and preparation to a certain degree. Now, I never took that approach really to speaking. Like, I prepare and I know what I'm going to say, but I'm not a heavily rehearsed speaker. I just have to know what I'm talking about and go up there and be comfortable, that it's going to be okay. But anything we do with regard to the company or even the newsletter, it's just I read a lot, I research a lot, I watch a lot, I listen a lot. And then when it's time to do whatever, you're just prepared. And it never goes the way you think it's going to go necessarily. But if you know your stuff and you've done your preparation, you've done the work, you can adapt pretty quickly.
That's true. Absolutely. Now, through all your years of experience running businesses, starting new ones, starting new projects, what has been your biggest lesson learned? If you can boil it down
Uh,
to one.
yeah, I mean, from the beginning, it's what's in it for other people. No matter how much you want to succeed or how much you think something is cool, you're either going to live or die on that by whether you are meeting the needs or satisfying the desires or solving the problems of people out there. And that can be your content, that can be your products and services. And it's just a hard lesson for some people to learn because we hear the stories about things like Twitter, which is, who knew that would work? The thing is, they didn't know it was going to work. They were all, experienced entrepreneurs. They got funding. People would listen to what they would say, and it just happened to work. Or Instagram. No, it makes no money and it gets bought for $1 billion. That's not reality, though. Reality of most businesses, 99.9% of them, are not those stories. It's simple hard work, understanding what people want and giving it to them in a new way that feels unique and human, I guess, is probably the biggest difference these days.
All right. So that's true. And I guess that's probably what a lot of people struggle with as they're working with entrepreneurship. They feel like they need to take a lot of safe routes, but that's probably what makes them most invisible, or what makes it the biggest challenge for them is they're doing the same things that everybody else is doing.
Yeah, that's the flip side of it. Just because you're satisfying an existing need or desire doesn't mean you don't have to be unique and differentiate yourself some way. That's marketing 101, and that's the thing people forget. And instead of being themselves, they try to speak in this bland, safe way like a corporation, and that's what the corporations are struggling with. Why would you mimic them? As small business owners and entrepreneurs, sometimes us is the key differentiator. It's what makes us stand apart, even though we're talking about the same stuff, or maybe we're providing a similar service. No one can replicate you. And unless you're just a horrible person, which some people probably need to maybe get a different front person, but in most cases, no, not at all.
Now, is there anything that you would change over the past 10 plus years of working as an entrepreneur? Is there anything that you would change if you had the ability to go back and do something over again?
Oh, of course. Absolutely. Too many things to really list, although I'll say the mistakes are what led to the correct decisions in many cases. I'm just a better adjusted person now than I was even 4 years ago, much less 10 or 15. And that's my own personal journey. So I wish I was as calm and confident and able to always make the right decision, especially when it comes to, people online like to mess with you a little bit. There are better ways than others to deal with that. But overall, you can't really say you change anything because you wouldn't be where you're at right now if you didn't go on that path.
That's true. That's true. Are you able to boil down your keys to success in 3 words? I know a lot of times a lot of people have trouble making it into just one, but if you had to say that there were 3 things that were key to your success, what would they be?
Number 1 is generosity. Give people something before you ask in return or even make an offer. Just builds trust. It attracts people to you in the first place. That's really one of the foundational reasons why content marketing works. You're solving one part of a problem for someone before you say, hey, here's the rest of it, right? The other thing is, of course, we've already touched on, focus on their problems, their desires, their needs. And I'd say hard work, at the end of the day. I've got a great team now. I work just as hard because I love it. But it does get easier depending on what you're trying to accomplish. I mean, there are many ways in which Copyblogger could have been more of a lifestyle business instead of trying to make it to 10 million and beyond. And we just chose not to do that because we wanted to do something else. It truly is driven by passion, not money. Because there's lots of ways to make money. And I think that's a 4th thing. Anyone, I guess, can fake it and make it, but if you really care and you can make that match up, and you do the work anyway, but it just so happens that people pay you money to do that work, then that's a total win.
Absolutely, it is. Now, what can we expect to see from you and Copyblogger Media or Further.net in the future?
Well, with Further, I've got some plans that I've already kind of revealed on the Rainmaker podcast that I do every week. For Copyblogger, we've got really big plans. A lot of them are centered around the Rainmaker platform that was released last year. That's the all-in-one hosted website and soon-to-be marketing automation platform. We just launched the pilot of a reseller program for that, so designers, content creators, consultants can take that website development headache out of it by using Rainmaker. We're actually turning Rainmaker.fm, which is the name of my podcast right now. That's a bigger thing. That's actually going to be a podcast network. So we're primarily known for Copyblogger, teaching people how to write, text heavy, copywriting heavy. And to grow the audience further, we need to build another authority site. And this one built on audio, which, as you know, really took off last year. But it's really an amazing format, even for people who prefer to read, because you can't read while you're working out at the gym. You know, you can't watch video while you're driving a car. But audio is this on-demand, portable. It's really perfect for educating busy business people. And so we think that that's our path forward. Of course, Copyblogger will keep growing and chugging along, but it's time to have another format. As you and I are sitting here talking right now, you know, many people are going to be able to listen to this while they're doing something else, on the go, what have you. So we see that as a big thing for 2015 for us.
Oh, that sounds very cool. I'm excited to see all the new things that you guys have coming out on there. It's going to be very helpful.
Cool.
If I could have one more little bonus question for you. Actually, before we do that, any other last parting words for entrepreneurs who are working on their business now or who are thinking about starting one?
I just say, do your homework. Think about the problem that you're solving for someone really, really hard, but you've got to stop at some point and do it. You know, I mean, you'll hear people say, well, just try something. And then people are completely unprepared. You know, you have to do your upfront work. You have to do your research. You have to understand what you're trying to accomplish. But then you have to not be paralyzed, you know, by continued analysis. And I did that. I did that for 4 years in the 90s. And that's one thing I've kind of shaken off. I think things through a crazy amount. But once I decide, it's either no or yes. And if it's yes, we're all over it.
Full steam ahead. That's cool.
Absolutely.
So going back to that bonus question, I always think that what people listen to, their music choices, tells a lot about them. If we were to find you at a karaoke night, what song would we most likely be seeing you up there doing?
That's a trick question. We actually we just had our company meeting, so we're about 50 people, but we're all over the place: U.S., Canada, Brazil, Europe. But we always get together at least once a year in one place, which is always a lot of fun. And we always have karaoke night. So I refused to participate in karaoke, although some of our people have some talent. Let me tell you, I was not aware. But that is a hard question, because I am almost a snob on the range of musical taste that I have. Like when I was in the 80s, when I grew up, I listened to everything from R&B to early rap to goth punk, you know, what was called alternative. If it wasn't top 40, I was listening to it, right? So that's exposed me to so many things, including jazz. But back to the karaoke thing. If I thought I could sing, which I'm pretty sure I can't, there's a song by Stone Temple Pilots called Plush that is like one of those great sing-along songs, like when they perform it in concert, the whole audience sings along. Right. I would sing that song. Maybe I should just get some lessons and sing that one song. I don't know. I'll give it a shot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well,
Brian, this has been great. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to come and chat with us. Lots of really great pearls of wisdom in here that have been super helpful.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
All right, thank you.
Brian had lots of great information to share, but there's one thing that stood out to me in particular that's going to be key to your success. And that brings us to today's I Am the One challenge. It's great to learn from the experience of others, but you've got to apply the lessons if you want to make them work for you. So based upon Brian's insights, here's today's challenge question for you. What is it about building your business that makes you most fearful? And based upon your answer, what's one thing you can do to get prepared to put yourself in the best position to conquer that fear? Think about it and then head on over to iamtheone.fm and let me know your answer. Leave it in the comments on the show notes page or even tweet me at Sonia E. Thompson. I'll be on the lookout for your note. Until next time, keep working on building your dream business so you can make life better. Somebody's waiting on you. Thanks for watching.